and welcome back to another episode, not of Inside Fnatic's Brush, but of YAPNATIC, where I cover moments in the season, usually tournaments ending or upcoming. And here, obviously, we have LEC Summer Finals to cover from Madrid and Worlds in China that is coming up right tomorrow morning. First things first, game of Fnatic versus KC, where we had a quite surprising Fnatic coming up. We were expecting, obviously, a better form of Fnatic after what was a really weird series against GX, specifically the first game, which should have gone in the hands of Giant X, but Fnatic somehow brought it back. Here specifically, it was all about the top lane with Kana versus Oscarinin. Very famous interview of Oscarinin saying, Kana, you better get ready because I haven't shown everything, and therefore it was for him to prove that everything that he said before was going to be on display during that series. And surprisingly enough, he did. Oscarinin managed to get quite a few of 1v1s, and top lane was never an issue across the series. Razork also played very, very well against Yike, who's been a great jungler the whole season. But overall, what reflected from KC was definitely their struggles in playing as a team, their trust, their confidence. Obviously, we've seen what happened with Vladdy between the players, but also the fan base, and just overall the struggles and poor relationships between the players, which make it that today Vladdy is on the market, even though he was probably one of the best mid laners of the season. Even with his drop in performance towards the end, I think he's still a very, very valuable asset. And it's a shame that, what happened with KC happened and they just somewhat scared him away from the team. On the other side, Fnatic manages to get a very important stepping stone into their end of season, which was Worlds qualification. Obviously, going into Mad Lions Coys, things were very, very different. The face that we saw from Oscarinin against Carmine Corp was not there during that series. Instead, it was Mirren completely outplaying the Fnatic top laner. Razork went back to his old bad habits of trying to sort of run it in and play Hail Marys when they weren't necessary, and Mad Lions Coy was definitely the better team on the day. Nonetheless, getting the tickets to Worlds was at least one of the main steps that the team had to reach this season, and they did. They still have to build, obviously, on better working with each other, trusting each other, especially during drafts where it feels like one of the players wants to put the burden of the carry and will not necessarily take a bad matchup just to make sure that they're playing for the team overall and keep the overall theme of the draft coherent. Now, with that said, let's focus on to Worlds with a Fnatic that seemed to be improving but still somewhat inconsistent, and their first opponent out of all the Pool 1 teams, is CFO. And CFO might be technically the best draw for Fnatic, but is very, very, very far from being the easiest one. For the simple reason that CFO have completely crushed their region. They've been to all the international tournaments, they've won the entire season, and they have an amazing way of playing together. For those who maybe don't know CFO well or have just heard what they can do, I will draw your attention to their MSI series against Mad Lions Coy, where they won 3-1, even though Mad Lions Coy was coming into the tournament as the first seed following Spring Split, and they got completely outplayed. Not only do they have two amazing carry players with Hongkyu in the mid lane, who's only 18 years old, but has an amazing way of managing the lane and playing team fights. They have the very famous Dogo as ADC, who has great technique, great skills, just amazing hands overall, and a very competitive and aggressive bot lane with his partner Kaiwing. On top of that, we had Driver. You've seen the guy who likes to dance after a one series, does all those choreographies. Yep, that's the same guy. He loves to play tanks. You can put him on Cassante, on Ornn, on Sion. He will be the front line for the team, and he will crush it in this role. He doesn't mind going forward, tanking, dying if he's able to give as much space as possible to his carries. And obviously, the jungler, Junja, who fits perfectly well in this CFO puzzle, who again have been very, very impressive against what would technically be better teams, or at least teams in the top 4 regions, and they can even scare some of the bigger LPL and LCK teams. So we'll have to look out for that. Obviously, this will all depend on what type of Fnatic shows up. As Grab said in his tweet today, if it's on a good day, there's a high chance that Fnatic can win. But again, that's the problem. We need to flip the coin and hopefully it lands on heads. And for that to happen, we need everyone, and I mean every single player from top to bottom, to play at their best. It cannot be a 4v5 at any moment, because CFO always plays at their best form. And even if one of their laners is behind, the impact they have during the team fight completely makes up for maybe the difference during the laning phase. So obviously what we can expect from CFO is a lot of scaling, a lot of skirmish, because while they're very good at setting up team fights, they love to brawl as well. And for those who are familiar with this region and who've seen Fnatic play against those type of teams, they like to get messy, and this is usually where Fnatic fall short. So we'll have to be on the lookout for that, and obviously have to get a very important 1-0 point to put us one step further into qualifying out of the Swiss stage. Very quick reminder for those who maybe aren't too familiar with the Swiss stage. What happens is that you need 3 victories to get out of it. The first one, and the first 2 ones, sorry, being a 1-0, and then going into the third step, it's going to be a best of 3, and each teams that face each other have the same score. What it means is that, for instance, after today, the teams that are 1-0 up will face each other, while the teams who are 0-1 down, they will face each other in some sort of lower bracket that can change into a middle higher bracket depending on your next score. So again, very important game for Fnatic to win here, and hopefully they manage to make it through. Very exciting in any case for this team to get as much international experience and see what level they showcase going forward, as this will pretty much determine what type of roster we will have next year. In Grabs' recent tweet, it seems that he might have re-signed with Fnatic, which I hope is the case, but because I believe in what Grabs can bring into the team and also into the organization in terms of team cohesion, but also in terms of ethics when it comes to working and how to be as a player off and on the Rift. In any case, that's been all for this episode of YAPNATIC. If we've been able to meet in Madrid, I hope you guys had a great time. And for those who have the chance to go to China, I hope you also have a great time. It's definitely going to be an interesting one. Very early game for those who are in Europe. It's going to be 8 in the morning. So make sure you have your clock set up and your alarms ready to not miss out on this first best of 1 to start Worlds 2025. I've been Matt Scott, and I'll see you after the Switch stage. Take care, guys.